Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for sitting down with me.
No problem. Thank you.
So we're going to take a minute to go through the regular questions, which everybody is learning and knowing about now. Where did you come from? What brought you to this point?
Well, there was a collaboration between my mother and father. I grew up in Iowa.
Iowa?
Iowa. About a 22-hour car drive from where we're at.
Wow.
I was there till I graduated high school in a small one-stoplight town called Eagle Grove, Iowa. Wanted to get out of there as soon as I could, so I went to a Bible college in Chicago, Illinois, where I met my wife and was there in Chicago for about 6.5 years before I moved here.
Wow.
So that's where I came from. What was the other part of the question?
Do you want to do a shout out for your lovely wife?
Sarah, my lovely wife, Sarah.
Okay.
27 years in November.
Dang. That's amazing.
So what was the other part of the question?
The other part of the question, what brought you to this point?
To this point, I had played music from 6th grade until we graduated. I was in a junior high and high school bands. So I always liked music. In Chicago, I got to meet people from all over the world and fall in love with music I hadn't really heard before, which my wife Sarah also turned me on to a lot of that. A lot of things that weren't big in Iowa. She was into a lot more, what do you call it, new wave kind of stuff. Which I didn't always like it, but I liked some of it.
Did she have a flock of seagulls haircut?
No, but they were great. I loved the flock of seagulls. They were great. That haircut was awesome too. And then I wanted to go to the grad school at St. John's College, which is why we packed everything we owned up and put it in a U-Haul and towed our VW Golf. When we showed up in Annapolis, it was like December 12th of 91.
Wow.
And Ian was our oldest son was about 1 year and 10 months old. And the other one was just a glimmer in our eyes, I guess. And then I never did go to the St. John's because busy feeding mouths and starting businesses.
How would you describe our scene to visitors? What should they not miss?
I've been for quite a few years telling people I think we're like a mini Austin, Texas because of the variety and the quality of the musicians that we have here. We have so many people that tour with famous people, and you know, they don't have name recognition probably, but the people they play with are worldwide. So it's great to be able to have that kind of talent, that level of talent that can play my little room or anywhere around town. Metropolitan is about 2 blocks up the street, so they get a lot of similar kind of people that I do, and as far as either they're on their way up or maybe have been up on the top and have faded some, but they're still kicking. So I'll get some of both of those kind of people, although they have a lot higher energy room than I have. My room can't handle the energy that they have up there. They're a little more of a CBGBs in a way, standing room versus dinner crowd. But I have all kinds of music, and I like all kinds of music.
What kind of music do you have?
We have a lot of jazz, probably 4 or 5 nights a week of jazz, and all kinds of jazz, because jazz is a very wide variety. But we also get bluegrass, Grammy-winning bluegrass, jazz guys, along with a lot of singer-songwriters. We have people from Austin and Nashville, New York, Asheville, just people, singer-songwriters, folk musicians. It's all kinds classical, a lot of classical players around.
In your mind, what is the perfect gig? Where would it be, and who would be with you?
That's a good question, because I actually don't get out as much as I'd like to hear other music, because we have it at our place 7 nights a week. But I like the kind of club. It depends on the kind of music, but I like the small, intimate kind of clubs. So, I missed an opportunity once to see Bob Dylan at the 930 Club.
Wow.
But to see somebody as big as him, or like the Rolling Stones in a club like that, would be, and with my wife, of course.
Of course. The lovely Sarah.
Yeah, the lovely Sarah. Would be really awesome to be able to catch one of those, because those are always, unannounced and hush-hush. So to be able to be in that right place at the right time would be really great.
Let's see. In the future, what do you hope to be known for or remembered for?
I guess I'm really proud of the fact that when we started this place, we were told that West Street would never make it, that if it wasn't on Main Street, it wouldn't work. And there had been a lot of troubles here, drug dealers and hookers, and I had worked at Lowe's for a year, and we'd tell people not to walk downtown, to take our shuttle. So since I opened, helping to get the street bricked, and helping to get the flowers and the flags and the cafes, outdoor cafes, and the public art. I mean, there was a lot of battles that went at City Hall till 1 a.m, and to be able to help beat the No Club, I think, and make the town vibrant and exciting, and for many different types of people versus just one type of people, rich white people. I think I'm really proud of that, and I just wish I could figure out how to capitalize on it a little more. Because owning a jazz club isn't the most lucrative career one could choose. Most of them are going out of business, radio stations and clubs around the country, as jazz becomes more and more of kind of a lost art.
That's a beautiful thing that you've created, and you should be very proud.
I am. It's good to hear it once in a while.
Yeah. So let's go to the next step. You're very active with AM/FM, Annapolis Musicians Fund for Musicians. Do you want to describe what that is?
Yeah, I had heard about it, and getting as close to as many different kinds of musicians as we have at 49 West. When I was asked to be on the board, I was honored and glad to serve. I've been on a lot of different boards, and a lot of them, it feels like, you might make an inch forward but 2 inches backwards, and it's long, tedious work. And this is not long and tedious. We don't meet every single month. We were able to make a lot of our choices through email. Choices meaning, who and how much benefits to give to someone in need.
Describe the structure of AM/FM, what AM/FM, the purpose and mission statement, and sort of an overview of the organization.
The Annapolis Musicians Fund for Musicians was, in a large part, started with Matt McConville and a group of others that saw how often musicians were getting screwed by the likes of me, club owners, meaning club owners. They'd be told that they were double booked when they showed up, or they were too busy. Actually, that's a real frustrating one. It was a musician shows up and they might be told there's a big game tonight, sorry, or there's no one here tonight, sorry, or the worst one is we're too packed tonight, sorry, we don't need you. And club owners just don't take aren't considering, I think, the importance of that revenue to that musician, and treat them so cavalier and with such disrespect, and it really, really annoys me. And so I figured, if, besides yelling at other club owners and tell them to step up and do their part, I got to do my part. So I was honored to be asked to be on the board. I feel like before I was on, it was this kind of a small clique of people, singer-songwriters, and I don't think everybody realized the extent of jazz musicians and classical musicians and people that make their living teaching piano and cello.
Well, and also, it's for anybody that experiences hardship, right? If somebody has an injury or...
Yeah, we started off with the lost gig thing. So when you couldn't play either because of the club owner or because your car broke down or because you got sick last minute. So we would make up for that lost gig. We might not pay them the amount that they lost, but I think we started with 100 a gig, and now we might be up to 150 for a gig. So if they lost 300, they're only going to get that, but it's better than nothing. It helps them keep the lights on in their house, or their insurance paid, or gas in the car, strings on their guitars. But then after a few years of that, then we had a catastrophic fund, so that when somebody had a heart attack, we could, pay a few months of their rent, and we've given quite a few people as much as $8,000, depending on what it was or how long they were going to be out of work. I think we've been given over $40,000 a year for the last 3 years, I think.
That's incredible.
And then after a few years of that, we've started with an educational fund and trying to help get people lessons if they can't afford them. So, or trying to give some scholarships to young people.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's great.
So it stabilizes the economy that way, of the musicians.
Yeah, and being such a music town,
Right.
I think it was in high need. So it's been great being able to be part of it.
It's wonderful. Where would you like to see our scene go?
No offense to DJs, but I'd like to see more people taking advantage of the talent that we have here. I think a lot of club owners have cut back on their live music because of the cost. A DJ is a lot less expensive than, a 3-piece or 4-piece band. But, we just keep going more and more to boxed products of all sorts rather than trying to support artists that are creating something,
Well, and it's really neat also the way our community of artists is intertwined with our community of musicians.
Yeah.
And that's really a wonderful thing.
I think there's always been some of that. It's been great with the Jimmy Haha and Jaw Works, Jeff Huntington, do their Jaw Haha collaborations.
Right, and Allison.
And then Allison with Ruben, and yeah, I think the musicians are marrying artists and
what are they breeding?
And artists like
baby artists and musicians.
Yeah, exactly. And we're having little baby artists and musicians. But yeah, well, creating music. I mean, that is creating art. It's just sound art versus visual art.
And that's another feature here in your back room. You always do the gallery.
Yep, once a month for 20. Actually, December will be the beginning of our 22nd year. So January will be 22 years that we've had an art show nearly every month. I actually stopped doing it in February because besides being a short month, the first Sundays are when we always have our art receptions. The first Sunday festivals came out of that. But but the first Sunday in February is Super Bowl Sunday, and I did it for about 6 years. I was like, art people aren't football people necessarily. But after 6 years of trying, I finally threw in the towel, because even people that hate football go to football game, to the, you know, I almost said World Series, to the Super Bowl, to the Super Bowl.
That has something to do with hockey, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think I'm on the same page with you on that one. Well, that's cool. Well, so what do you foresee in the future? Where do you think all of this is going? You know, we've talked about for Sundays and, you know, dinner under the stars and chocolate festival and, you know, all the wonderful things that are happening.
I think we've had people that got signed and have, you know, moved away, but I think, and a big artist, when I had the cafe at Maryland Hall, which we had for 2 years before we started 49 West. So in 93 we started that. 95 we started 49 West. But a lot of artists too have left and never come back. But there's more and more that have left and realized what they left here and are moving back. There were some musicians a while back, they were playing, I think, down in like Atlanta, and there was another Annapolis band there, and they heard them tell the audience, you know, we're from Annapolis, and they said, why don't we say that? We always say we're from outside of Baltimore. And so I think more and more people are starting to be proud of being here instead of wanting to get away, and are glad to tell people they're from here. And I think it's only a matter of time before that starts to stick into people's head.
It's you know, there are bands like Bumpin' Uglies that tour, Sweet Lita. Whenever we see them on stage outside of town, they're always the first ones to say, we're from Annapolis. And they are very proud of that.
Yeah, and that's just happening more and more. I'm really proud of the Pressing Strings guys with their big gig, and I'm sure Brian Ewald had something to do with that. Brian is one of the many people I was referring to earlier when I said that there's so many musicians here, you might not know who they are, but they tour with people that you do know who they are.
Absolutely.
We just had Mickey Basil tonight, who was with Kenny Rogers for like 5 years, and Barbara Mandrell for like 4 years, and played with all kinds of people. So
yeah, it was a beautiful night.
It was. I'm glad you were here to film it.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too. Naptownmusic is a very important part of this. That and Jimmy's Upstart. And I feel like you guys are pretty much like taking on a whole part of what I've been trying to bring and provide.
We love it. You know, this is our home.
It's great.